For many urban dwellers and suburban gardeners, the dream of a sprawling orchard feels like a luxury reserved for those with acres of sun-drenched land. High-rise balconies, narrow alleyways, and heavily shaded courtyards are often dismissed as dead zones where nothing but ivy or moss might survive. However, the intersection of modern horticultural breeding and the ancient art of container gardening has opened a new frontier. You do not need a vast, south-facing estate to enjoy the luxury of homegrown fruit. By selecting the right species and mastering the art of the pot, you can turn a dim corner of your patio into a perennial pantry. The secret lies in understanding that shade is not a monolith. In the gardening world, we operate within a spectrum: dappled sunlight filtering through tree canopies, partial shade that offers a few hours of morning glow, and the bright indirect light of a north-facing wall. While sun-loving giants like peaches or nectarines might struggle, a surprisingly diverse group of fruits actually prefers the cooler, protected environment of a shaded container garden. The strategic advantage of the container. Before selecting plants, it is vital to recognize why containers are the ultimate tool for the shade gardener. In a traditional garden, a plant is at the mercy of its location. If a neighboring tree grows or a fence is built, the plant suffers. With a pot, you have mobility. You can chase the light, moving your plants forward in the early spring to catch the low sun and retreating to the cool shade during the blistering heat of August. Furthermore, containers allow for perfect soil control. Many shade-tolerant fruits, particularly berries, have very specific soil requirements that are rarely met by standard garden dirt. In a pot, you are the master of the microenvironment, tailoring the acidity, drainage, and nutrient density to the specific needs of each branch and root. Champions of the understory, the best fruits for shade. The Alpine strawberry, the forest jewel. Unlike their large, supermarket-bound cousins, Alpine strawberries are descendants of wild woodland species. In their natural habitat, they carpet the floors of European forests, thriving in the cool, humid air beneath towering pines and oaks. This makes them the undisputed champion of the shady balcony. These plants do not produce runners. Instead, they grow in neat, productive mounds, making them perfect for smaller pots or window boxes. Because the fruit is smaller, the plant doesn't require the intense, day-long thermal energy needed to swell a giant berry. The result is a fruit with an aroma so powerful it can perfume an entire room. A concentrated burst of sweetness that tastes of pineapple and wild roses. The blueberry, controlled acidity. Blueberries are often associated with wide-open barrens, but many varieties are remarkably shade-tolerant, provided they receive bright light. The primary challenge with blueberries is their demand for acidic soil. When planted in the ground, maintaining a low pH is a constant battle against the surrounding earth. In a container, however, you can use a dedicated ericaceous compost mix to create a permanent sanctuary for them. Varieties such as Sunshine Blue or Top Hat are bred specifically for compact spaces. They offer a triple threat of value: delicate bell-shaped flowers in the spring, delicious antioxidant-rich fruit in the summer, and breathtaking crimson foliage in the autumn. In the shade, the berries may take a week or two longer to ripen, but this slower process often results in a more complex sugar profile. The Ribes family, currants and gooseberries. If you have a north-facing wall that never sees a direct beam of sunlight, look no further than the Ribes genus. Red, black, and white currants, along with gooseberries, are functionally designed for the shade. In fact, intense, direct afternoon sun can often scorch their delicate leaves and shrivel the fruit before it matures. These plants are incredibly hardy and productive. A single red currant bush, trained as a standard, a small tree shape, in a large pot, can produce strings of translucent, ruby-like berries that are as beautiful as they are delicious. Gooseberries, while often prickly, provide a harvest that is unmatched for tarts, crumbles, and preserves. They are the workhorses of the shade garden, requiring very little maintenance once established. The sour cherry, elegance in the shadows. While sweet cherries demand baking heat to develop their sugars, the sour, or acid, cherry is a different breed entirely. The Morello cherry is famous in Europe for its ability to produce heavy crops on north-facing walls. When grown in a large container, roughly 15 to 20 gallons, and grafted onto a dwarf rootstock like Gisela 5. These trees stay at a manageable height of 6 feet. The fruit of a sour cherry is deep, dark, and complex. While they can be eaten fresh when fully ripe, they truly shine in the kitchen, where their acidity holds up against heat and sugar in pies and preserves. Even the blossoms are more resilient, lasting longer in the cool shade than they would in the drying heat of the sun. Mastering the shady environment. Success in the shade requires a shift in how you manage your living assets. Because evaporation occurs more slowly in the shade, the greatest threat to your plants isn't drought, it's waterlogging. Drainage and airflow. Plants in the shade do not drink as quickly as those in the sun. It is essential to use high-quality, free-draining potting soil. Mixing in perlite or horticultural grit will ensure that oxygen can always reach the roots. Additionally, because shady corners can become stagnant, airflow is vital. Spacing your pots a few inches apart allows air to circulate, which significantly reduces the risk of fungal issues like powdery mildew, which thrives in still, damp air. The nutritive balance. Shade-grown plants photosynthesize at a slower rate, meaning they don't need the same aggressive feeding schedules as sun-blasted vegetables. Over-fertilizing with nitrogen in the shade will lead to a massive explosion of dark green leaves, but very little fruit. Use a slow-release organic fertilizer in early spring, and perhaps a liquid seaweed feed once the fruit begins to set, to provide the trace minerals necessary for flavor development. The pollination factor. One often overlooked aspect of shade gardening is the behavior of pollinators. Bees and butterflies are solar-powered creatures. They prefer to forage in the warmth of the sun. If your balcony is deep in the shadows, you may find fewer winged visitors. To combat this, always select self-fertile varieties whenever possible. You can also act as a surrogate bee by using a small, soft paintbrush to gently move pollen from flower to flower, ensuring that every blossom has the chance to become a berry. The aesthetic of the potted orchard. Growing fruit in containers isn't just a functional endeavor, it is an aesthetic one. In a shaded space, the vibrant greens of blueberry leaves and the architectural structure of a currant bush can turn a utilitarian area into an outdoor room. Vertical interest. Use standard bushes, plants trained to have a clear trunk, to provide height. This allows you to plant shade-loving herbs like mint or chives around the base of the trunk in the same pot. Trailing textures. Use Alpine strawberries as spillers in the front of your pots. Their delicate white flowers and bright red berries will cascade over the edges, softening the lines of the container.